And too, Jack Quaid had some interesting things to pull off too, because you have to, in his performance, you have to believe Iris is with him and loves him. Laugh in the scene where he's clearly, she's not sharing in the sexual climax.
Yeah.
But overall, you don't want him to be revealed as a villain too much.
No.
But you don't want to shock us. So what would your approach in Act 1 of specifically establishing his character to make sure audiences are kind of like, yeah, we like him.
Yeah.
But, you know.
So that's a great question as well, because that's something that also changed in the editing process as well. Jack and Drew modulated that performance during the production, like during the shoot. We got takes of Josh being a little bit more sweet, a little bit more caring, and we got takes where Josh was a little bit more of a dick. So we can modulate, and I think that's something that Drew and Jack talked about, and that's something that we certainly experimented with in the editing room as well. So back in an earlier version of the movie where we had the day he killed me, our initial impression of Josh might have been a little bit more abrasive. Maybe he was a little harder for that to kind of make sense. And again, that was something that we found in the test screening process with audiences, that when you introduce this boyfriend who is not, just his behavior seems weird around her, they don't really seem like a couple. And so there was a disconnect happening, and not necessarily in a good way. People, they were like, I found it hard to kind of buy into the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie because I'm not fully buying it. And so we ended up going with performances where he was a little bit more lovey-dovey, a little bit more of a dork, a little bit more sweet, to make that trajectory and that character growth a bit more dramatic. It gives Josh more, I think it makes him a little bit easier to connect to. It allows you to empathize with him. Although Josh does turn villain right away, we never set out to make him an arch villain right off the bat. You have to believe that there's a version of the Iris and Jack or Josh that they somehow work. Like it's an android and it's a dude with a sex bot. Like you have to mention, like there's a reason that there's a version of this relationship that maybe it's toxic and it doesn't fully work, but it's existed, I should say. Josh has hired Iris for a reason, and so you want, I think, to kind of feel that loneliness, that desperation, that sadness in his performance, and then as Iris begins to express herself and emancipate herself from this toxic relationship, you begin to see Josh's true nature, which is someone that's very bitter, has a lot of ego issues, that feels like the world's looked him over, and although he does very terrible things by the end of the film, when you reveal kind of this rotten core at the middle, we don't want to set out and say at the beginning, like, this guy's bad. Like, you want to be able to connect with him in some way. So I think you're a little bit more emotionally involved as this film progresses and goes down its steps.